Da 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 da! My first anthology review coming right up. Welcome everyone to Pen to Paper. I'm Leah Lindemann. We are going to be talking today about The Dead Inside, a collection of short stories, poems, and perhaps the written word that could be put to music or dance, all edited together by LAUREL this is late. LAUREL HIGHTOWER and Sandra Rutten. And literally, I was just talking and I just ran out of steam on her name. I'm so sorry, LAUREL. So I'm here to discuss my thoughts on this first anthology that I'm reviewing. LAUREL HIGHTOWER put out a call to anybody who wanted to review, and I thought, why not? Let's pick it up and help with the buzz. It has been out for probably a good month and a half already, so I know I'm really late in this. Again, as I said in my previous video, I've been battling a wisdom tooth infection. Then once that was gone, this past week has been crazy. I just had lots of surprise birthday parties for a really big year, and then I was coordinating my friend's wedding, and life goes on. It's very, very busy, but I'm here now to share my thoughts on some really amazing pieces that gripped me to the heart and cut around in there and kind of left me wondering, what? A lot of these pieces were so strong in their own voice, in their own ways. Obviously, this is from a variety of writers, some that I've already read or that I know about from other booktubers, and others that I've never heard of before, but all of them have definitely brought stories or poems to the reader's attention that you can tell are very deeply personal. And this whole body of work talks about identity horror and how identity can be warped, how it can be misused, how it could be taken and thrown away, and you're there to pick up the pieces that are left behind. So I do have a list here of stories that really caught my attention. So if you see me looking down, I'm just looking down at this list because there were a lot of them. As I said, each one of them were strong in their own right, but these are the ones that really captured my attention. And I'm going to start off with the first story of the anthology. I was so happy when I saw the name S.H. Cooper. She is the author of Inheriting Her Ghosts, and Jay from The World According to Jay, who is also my partner in crime with On the Same Page with Leah and Jay, he gave me a whole list of horror books to read last October, which I dove into a little hesitating, well, not hesitating, but I just didn't know what to make of it because I don't usually read horror, but there were a lot of strong reads that I read and enjoyed, and hers, I believe, was my most favorite. And just her way with words, she's so good, guys. Anyways, this first story really topped it, and I was so happy that they started with this story because it was so strong. It's about a woman who is seeking to make a name for herself in this world. I believe she's in the corporate world, and she gets passed over for promotions, and she's really trying her best to put her foot out there and make a name for herself. And she gets passed over and looked over, and they say, oh yeah, it's nothing personal. And then in the end, there's this piece of her that just opens its mouth and starts spewing all the things that she's holding back inside. It's a tale of woe in the sense that she doesn't deal with the emotions that she's facing, and when she just bottles them all up inside, they come out in a really crazy way. And so I was so flabbergasted and enjoyed that story very much. So we also have My Skin Drum Garden by K.P. Kulski. And this is basically almost more of, I would say, an exposition of how our words, when they are thoughtless, when we don't put thought into our words, how they can really cut those. We may not even understand or realize that they cut those around us. It might even be a second offhand remark that someone hears, and how it just cuts them up until okay. Sorry, that was just really freaky. Something slammed into my door. I'm in a big giant shed, literally probably 40 feet from my house, and the doors are all open, and I'm hearing rain. Okay, this is really setting the tone for what I'm talking about here. Woo, okay, let's go on. So it's a cutting exposition of how someone is left to pick up the pieces and still make an identity for themselves, despite the fact that people are insensitive and people are thoughtless. So I really thought that was very strong. Next one is A Most Bulbous Congregation by Eric Raglan. Goodness gracious. This one stirred up a lot of emotions. It's also a very touchy subject. It's about a young man who is gay, and his parents bring him to a conversion therapy camp. And there, he's there to get better, to not be what he wants to be. It was one of the most horrifying stories in this selection. It was insanity. It is a tale of hate feigning to be love, and really showing how the parents, their fear of the unknown of what their son has decided he wants to do, has put up these walls that really break down any kind of connection or true relationship that they can have with their son, that open dialogue that they should have with their son. Whatever you believe, that is key as parents when children are making their decisions or becoming their own, that you need to hear them out and you need to love them. And I understand that it was the parents' way, I guess, of how much they thought they could love, but really it falls so short. And he's put into this horrible position, and you will see, it's just disgusting. And there's a bath full of ticks. That's all I'm gonna say there. It was just creepy and made my skin shiver. It was very colorful, and that's all I'm going to say about it, because it's bringing up not so great memories. But yet it is an issue that needs to be discussed, because if there are places like this that claim to help, that kind of help does not help. Does not help. And as I said, instead breaks down those barriers. Brings up those barriers between parents and children. And then we have What Are Friends For by Daniel Barnett. I've heard of his name so many times from the Nightmareland Chronicles, and I really got a sense of why people love his Nightmareland Chronicles series, which I'm eager to get into myself sometime this year, hopefully. Books just pile on. There's so many books that I've been meaning to get to even this first quarter of the year, and I keep having to push them back because it's just not working out, or just making the time is a struggle. So let's talk about What Friends Are For. There's an air of mystery. It kind of starts off not as horror, but you know that there's something going very wrong with the main character, Christina, and Jessica's her friend, and she notices that she has this bruise on her arm, and she thinks it's her husband who is beating her up, and So she decides after work to go and follow her friend and see what's going on. And she sees her friend pick up her son from this sweet old lady that's helping out. And then she goes back home. She puts the son to bed and everything is very calm and quiet. And then finally she sees this light going on in the basement, and she goes to the basement window and she sees her friend in a flowing nightgown, and she moves closer to something down in the basement. And then in the end, you realize that, well, maybe I don't want to spoil it, so I'm not going to spoil it. You're going to understand what she's moving toward and how it brings up the questions, how much would you do for a friend that you love dearly, in a very horrific way. So let's see. Next, I have More by A.K. Dennis. There's actually several here that really touched me, that really hurt me as a mother, because, you know, there's just those thoughts that you think sometimes when you are most exhausted, when you are depressed, perhaps postnatal, prenatal depression, when you feel like your world is unraveling and you just don't know what to do. And these stories put out there questions or scenarios that you read and you're thinking, I'm so scared that that could actually be me, or I came so close. And just the relationships between mother and children, really gut punched me in a way that is difficult to forget. So I will say these stories and their authors. More by A.K. Dennis. Then we have Ending is the Only Beginning by Ali Shea. The Daughter She Wanted by Jason Bonet. And You're Never Fully Dressed. These, oh goodness, I didn't write the author's name. I'm so sorry. Those particularly were difficult reads as a mother who has 6 children, who has gone through a lot, and yet it was difficult to read, but it also was slightly hopeful. And then we also have Cuca Ve Te Pegar by Roxy Voorhees. It is a heartbreaking story. It almost seemed to be poetical a little bit. It's a heartbreaking story of a young boy's mother who dies, and he's left with this man who should be his protector. Men, you are there to be protectors to your sons and your daughters, and to train them and to help them succeed in life. And instead he's not even his real father. It's his stepfather. Turns out to be a monster. And it's just heartbreaking to see how much someone can take abuse and how they unravel, and just the very strong and deep feelings that go with that. That was an excellent portrayal. And then we also have Love Song for the Dead by Tabitha Wood. It's beautiful lyrical poetry. It's haunting, and it just opens up the reader's mind to this almost flipped brand new world. Very strong. I was very impressed with that poem. And then I also have all these colors, and again, I forgot to write down the author's name. Again, it is a poem that is very lyrical, and it literally reads as if you're looking through a kaleidoscope. It was very impressive that way. So, overall, I loved the format of the book because it broke up the stories. You had some stories, and you had poetry, stories, poetry. It really broke up the format, so it was digestible. However, I did feel that perhaps there were a few too many stories in the collection. And it's not because of the writing, it's just, I guess, because it's a very heavy subject of identity. And I did read this mostly in one shot. I believe I did break it up a little bit, but still it was heavy. So Laurel Hightower and Sandra Rutten, kudos to you for picking such strong... I'm hearing things here. This is freaky. This is like 10:30 at night. For picking such strong stories that really reveal a lot about the authors and what they care about. And identity horror. I'm giving this overall a 4 stars, strong read. I'm glad it was my first anthology, and I'm looking forward to reading more anthologies in the future. So tell me, is this an anthology that you'd be interested in picking up? And also tell me what your favorite anthology is, because then I would be very interested in picking it up myself and reading it. I like anthologies because you can read, a poem a day or a short story a day on top of your other reading. But yeah, so have a great night, guys. I look forward to seeing you again next week with my special book review. I'm behind on my book reviews because I was really excited to get these done. But again, because of what's been happening the last few weeks, I'm so excited to give my video review of The Boatmore Butcher by L. Stevenson, which the author reached out to me himself and asked to do. So I'm super excited for that. Tune in for next Friday for that one.